two, three. What's up, Broncos? Welcome back to another episode of the Poly Podcast. This is a normally bi weekly news show where we cover the latest and greatest in the latest issue of our student rant paper, the Poly Post. I am, of course, your co host, Nick Talamante, and joining me is.
Andy Foreman, straight from my room.
That's right. This coronavirus situation has definitely mixed things up. It's kind of the reason why we've been MIA for the past couple weeks, just dealing with that. And hopefully, and we'll get to this later in the show about what the school's going to be doing in terms of like next semester in the fall and if it's going to be open. So the future of the polypod remains kind of in limbo at this moment, but we're trying our best to just get something out, just have some kind of format going. So we're going to try this recording here through Zoom. Everyone's on Zoom. So
Yeah.
yeah, Andy, how you been, man? How you doing? How you doing in this crazy Rona situation?
Well, I've lost all track of time. My sleep schedule is
Jeez, tell me
completely
about it.
screwed. Um, it feels like it's about 11 in the morning for me right now, even though it's 7 o'clock at night. Because
Dude, so many things like have just kind of been open to me of like how much they're just like social constructs like time, like you mentioned. Time doesn't exist. It's not real. I've gone officially crazy being in the house this long, and like I wake up at 11, and then I look up and like, okay, it's noon, I got some time, I blink, and then it's 2 a.m. and I'm just like, oh my god, where did the time go? Time is moving too fast or too slow. I feel like Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar right now. Like I'm going nutty.
I know, me too. And the worst part is like you'll like check Blackboard or something, and they'll say like, "Oh, this assignment is due on blah 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 blah," and you're like, "Oh, I got time," and then you check the calendar and you realize it's 2 days away, and you're like, "Wait, what? Damn it!"
Oh my god, dude! Like procrastination has never been more of an issue than it is right now. I have zero. I have, matter of fact, I have negative just motivation to do anything. So like when I'm in class, I'm just like, yo, I could put on Netflix right now. Like I don't need to pay attention to this. Or like I haven't, like you said, like I have an assignment due and it's like a week away. And I'm just like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I got time. I fall asleep. I wake up. Oh, it was due 2 weeks ago, you know?
I know, and then like I'll breeze through like a season of television in a day. I started watching Mindhunter.
Oh,
Uh,
how's that?
it was awesome. It's
Nice.
fantastic. I'm halfway through the first season right now. But like I read like an entire, and I mean this sounds dumb, but like I read an entire book in one night the other night.
Hell
Like
yeah.
a whole book. You know what I mean? Like
Hell yeah, dude.
I mean it was a short one, but still like I can't imagine having enough time where I can finish a whole book in an evening.
In one
But
sitting, right?
but now I have.
Yeah, I've been enjoying this. Or no, I haven't been enjoying the situation, but I've been trying to make the most of it, I should say.
Oh yeah.
And one of the, I guess, silver lining benefits is that we have a lot of time on our hands now, and you kind of get to catch up on everything you've been holding off. I don't know. I'm speaking for myself on this. I've been holding off on like so much content, like whether it's movies or shows or games. I've been putting off stuff for like a year and a half now, and I finally have time to like experience it and like actually enjoy some of that stuff. So I'm watching movies and shows and playing games that came out like a year ago. Like
Yeah.
everyone's long past like on like Spider-Man or Red Dead 2, and I'm just now starting it, and I'm like, yo,
Uh-huh.
this is pretty cool, and everyone's like, yeah, it was like back in 2019.
Well, yeah, everyone was talking about Mindhunter like 2 years ago, and now I'm finally watching it, and I'm like, oh, I see why everyone was so excited. But
See, it's nice to finally catch up to the pop culture.
well, if we're talking about taking advantage of it, one of the things that I did is I finally started writing my first feature-length screenplay,
Oh, for
and
real?
yeah, and like 2 weeks in, and I have 41 pages,
Hell
and
yeah, dude.
some of those pages might even be good.
At least a few, just probabilistically.
Yeah, exactly. So, you got to make the most of it. I have an article coming out on the in the Poly Post next week about staying how to stay creative during quarantine. Because, dude, I'm not like a person that is like super into going out all the time, but I didn't realize just how much I liked being out of the house until.
Dude, tell me about it. Like, one, I'm very excited for your article that's gonna be coming out next week. As a creative person,
Mhm.
I need that. I need
Thank
to
you.
hear this, and just like you, I've been trying to take advantage. I've been doing a lot more writing as well. I think
Nice.
that's awesome, man. That you've been making so much progress on your screenplay,
Mm,
and I would love to check it out sometime. And
for sure.
yeah, man, it's all about trying to make the most of the situation. But like you said, I'm normally like I would probably describe myself as a introverted extrovert. Like I like people, I like going out, I like being outgoing, but like I'm very comfortable just being by myself and being a homebody sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
that's totally cool with me sometimes. I need to go out though. I've been going crazy just being up in this house, not going out, not seeing people, not going to like the bar or anything like that. So I feel you, man. It's a lot. Just
Yeah.
it's hard enough.
I never thought I would miss like school so much. Like,
I don't miss the commute, but I miss
yeah.
seeing people.
Yeah. I miss just like being around other human beings my own age.
Exactly.
It was nice.
It's nice getting some kind of like social interaction.
Yeah, exactly. And I miss being able to be told what the assignment is in person and ask what it's about than having to send an email to clarify every time an assignment is due.
Like I said, man, it's all about the structure. Like that's what I need right now because it's
Mhm.
too easy for me to procrastinate. Like, why would I do this assignment when I could just spend, the entire day watching another series on Netflix? And
Yeah.
of course, all these freaking companies are flooding their streaming platforms with new movies or releases, and they're just like, "Hey, binge this," and I'm just like, "If you insist,
Yeah.
pile something on," and I'm just like, "Oh, I was supposed to do, an essay, about 5 times last week."
This is kind of random. How are your eating habits now? Because it's totally thrown me off.
This is just
Yeah.
discombobulated my whole like schedule. My circadian rhythm is all off, dude. Like my
Yeah.
equilibrium is wonky. So I've been trying like hard to maintain some kind of like healthy schedule. So I've been working out like every day or every other day. I've been trying to eat 3 meals a day, not very successfully, but I've been trying to eat 3 meals a day of like moderate proportions, and just not spend all day like snacking or not eating all day until like the very end and then being up all night. So I've been trying to get my sleep and diet down. What about you?
It's kind of uh changed the way I eat a lot because I eat like super light lunch. Because keep in mind, like I'm up till 4 in the morning. I wake up at like 1 in the afternoon now. So I eat like a super light lunch, and then I've started realizing like why old people eat so early in the evening, because like now that like I have nothing to do and I know where to go, as soon as I see the sun start going down, I'm like a dog when you put a blanket over their crate and they just think it's nighttime.
Oh.
Like it's the same thing. Like the moment I see the sun going down, I'm like, well, the world is over. And
Right.
so, but like I've noticed like I my like overall eating habits have severely declined in terms of eating fast food. Even though I'm eating like a lot of takeout and stuff, like I
Mhm.
am not nearly going to like McDonald's or In and Out or any of that kind of crap anymore. It's mostly just like Chick-fil-A and Subway. like
That
the
damn
like
Subway.
like the more unhealthy the food is, like the less I eat it, because now I'm because like when you're out doing stuff and say you're on campus and you're between classes and you just stop by the Taco Bell on campus just so that
Mhm.
you can get some food. Like now I don't have anything distracting me from how terrible the food is for you. So I'm basically just sitting around I'm basically sitting around my house feeling like McDonald's poisoning my body for an hour or two, and I'm like, you know what I mean?
No, I totally feel you, dude. All right then, Andy. So we're gonna do so for everybody. One, I want to say thank you for listening, but also try to just bear with us, please. This is a new format. We're trying this whole Zoom thing. We're trying to just get a episode out after
Yeah.
weeks of hiatus. So this might be a little janky. This might be a little wonky. We're just going to figure it out as it goes. And this week we're going to switch up the format a little bit. We're actually just going to talk about a few topics between me and Andy relevant to the school and
Mhm.
in general. But we're not going to be covering this week's issue. If all goes well with this episode, we'll try to go back to a somewhat normal format with guests next week. But for right now, we're just going to go into a topic and do kind of a more laid back, homey kind of vibe. Since we're both at home,
Yeah.
and we're just gonna talk, and we're just gonna kind of shoot the shit and get our genuine thoughts on these matters. So the first thing we want to talk about, Andy, is the stimulus check, because the federal government finally released the stimulus checks, at least for those that have direct deposit and those that qualified. So right off the bat, did you receive the stimulus check?
I don't think that I'm qualified to get it,
Got you.
because I still, as bad as it sounds, I still count as a dependent on my parents' taxes.
I don't think it's
So,
bad. I mean, like a lot of people under 25 do.
yeah, I still live at home, and stuff like that, and so I don't think I'm going to get it, which is really disappointing. I'd like to see
Yeah.
$1,200 check for me in the mail.
Yeah, who
Um,
wouldn't?
but I do realize that there are people out there that they're pretty much everyone that's getting it needs it more than I do. You know what I mean? So
Personally, my general feeling on it is that these stimulus checks are not enough. They're not nearly enough. $1,200 in most cities, it doesn't cover rent fully, or if it does cover rent, it's only rent. There's no money left over for anything else that people need. It needs to be more frequent. This needs to be a reoccurring payment until we figure out this situation, until there's a cure, until we can go back to normal. Just whatever the case is, Americans still need to be getting money. This one-time payment is just not enough. It is not going to work, and that reflects in the numbers. I think there was a poll last week conducted, and the overwhelming majority of people are like, "This is not enough. We are still struggling. We're still barely keeping above water." So there needs to be way more done with it. I think this everybody should get it. I don't understand why every American shouldn't be receiving this check. And if people are like, "Oh, well, what about the people that don't need it? What about the rich people?" I'm like, "No, the rich people can get it too. Why? Because you can just sort this out in the tax code later."
yeah,
Okay, if people that don't need it receive the check, guess what? You can just tax them out of it next year for 2021.
yeah,
This means testing, where people have to fill out these forms, they have to see who qualifies, and then you qualify but you don't, but you need it still, but you don't qualify, like all this other bullshit. Like, we don't need to be dealing with that. Give everybody a check, keep sending them checks until we get this figured out and situated, and then we'll figure out what we need later. Okay, we'll
yeah.
figure out the payments, or like the tax reduction, whatever the case is. We'll figure all that out later, but right now people are struggling, they are suffering, and they need these checks.
Well, what I find kind of interesting is, I don't want to sound like a total hippie that's like, money has no inherent value other than what humans give it or whatever, but it is
Sure.
kind of funny. Like, money doesn't exist. Like,
Nope.
when you start talking about like trillions upon trillions of dollars, it just makes me laugh how like stuff something like this happens, and then immediately they're like, all right, well, a $2 trillion stimulus package is what we need, and they can just kind of write 2 trillion on like all of I don't I looked it up, and
Mhm.
there is not enough money, like physical American currency, in circulation right now to actually back up all the debt that we have.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And so I just love that it's like they can just kind of pull these numbers out of thin air and be like, we'll figure it out later. I mean,
Because it isn't it's you nailed on the head, dude. Money isn't real. Okay,
no, yeah,
like they found 2 trillion out of nowhere. They just pulled that out. Okay, so
yeah,
I when we come out of this, okay, however long it's going to be,
mhm,
I don't want to hear shit when it comes to how do we pay for this. Get out of here. Okay, because they somehow found 500 billion to bail out these industries. They somehow found 200 trillion. Like, they were able to generate the money when they needed it. And this, one of the silver linings to the situation is it's opening up people's eyes to a lot of the just cripplingly flawed aspects of our system. And one of those is this whole argument of like, well, we can't pay for this, X, Y, and Z policy that would help the overwhelming majority of the people in our country. Yet they're able to find all this money for this, for all these major multinational corporations to get bailed out with these, string-free deals. Meanwhile, people are struggling just to get one check, you know?
exactly, yeah. And if you have one little thing wrong on one little detail wrong, you're not eligible. Yeah.
Exactly. And we can jump into the eligibility. I just wanted to just kind of end this aspect of the conversation on our eyes are open, and we're living in history right now. We're living
Yes.
through history. This is a historic moment. We're going to come out of this a different country. The things
Mhm.
are going to be different. And my hope is people with their eyes open to the situation and what they're currently experiencing realize we can't do things the way we did them before.
No.
Like coming out of this, the idea of, how our private healthcare insurance industry and system is set up just cannot continue. Our
Yes.
healthcare system needs to change coming out of this because this is ridiculous. So moving forward as a country, we need to things are going to change. We need to realize like we cannot go back to how we were doing things before. It's impossible. Like we physically cannot do it.
Well, every single industry and aspect of our daily life is going to be changed on the other side of this.
Oh yeah.
Everyone knows I'm a huge movie guy and stuff, and that's a significantly less important topic than like people's healthcare.
Hmm.
But like you just see every single aspect from healthcare to the movies to the way food is served is all changing.
It's in
Like
ripples. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I went through the drive-through the other day at Chick-fil-A, and they had like special instructions because they handed it out to you in a tray, and they
Mhm.
said if you could take your food without touching the tray, please. Like
Yeah, or they have like those screens now. I don't know if you've noticed in the
yeah,
drive-throughs. Yeah, those like almost like bank window screens,
yeah,
like the bank teller screens. But yeah, you're right, man. This is gonna have rippling consequences that we're gonna feel years from now. And
yeah.
I don't know if people have internalized that fully yet. That when we come out of this eventually, and whoever knows how long that's going to be, things are going to be very different, and we're still going to feel those effects.
e-
Just down the line.
Exactly. Like it's gonna affect the way, because I've heard that like mass gatherings might be banned until like fall of next year.
Oh, dude, I heard we're
Yeah.
not gonna have like okay, we can get into like the future predictions in a little bit.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, no, I totally feel you on that. So let's just quickly run through like who should have received the stimulus check, and then talk about that for a little bit, and then we can move on to the next topic. Cool with you?
Sure. Works for me, man.
All right. So the stimulus check from the federal government that was issued today. It got pushed back. I believe it was supposed to be issued to Americans on the 6th, and then it got pushed back to this week. And people should be receiving them periodically throughout this week. I know that I got mine. I received it on the 15th. I got a notification from my bank the night before saying that, like, hey, you qualified, you'll get it. Those that qualify for it, you have to be an American citizen. You have to have a social security number, and you have to have been an independent when you filed for your taxes back in 2018, which means you cannot have been claimed by anyone, which is why so many people like yourself, Andy, and so many of us in college are getting screwed out of the money because their parents claim them on their taxes, and they might have done that back in 2018, and that's why they don't qualify for it. So if you were claimed as a dependent, that is why you're not receiving the check, which is bullshit, but that is how they're doing it. Also, families that have children under the age of 16 receive an extra $500 on top of the $1,200 that the government sent them,
Hmm.
which again screws out everybody who is a high school, senior to a college student, just in that age range of 17 to 24. If you're claimed by your parents but you're over 16, then they don't even get the benefit of getting an extra $500. So the young are getting screwed out of this no matter what.
It is kind of a frustrating thing. What kind of annoys me is they're going back to 2018 for the eligibility, and I'm like, a
Right.
lot can happen in 2 years. Like a
Right.
lot can change.
It's mind-boggling because I'm sure there's so many people who are in the situation where like maybe 2018 was a good year for them, you know?
Well, what would have happened if I moved out last year? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Well, my parents still claim me as a dependent in 2018, and
It,
now I'm like trying to pay the. Fortunately, I did not move out,
mhm.
and I still have, you know, my nice childhood room that I'm living in that's covered in posters of Godzilla.
Very
But,
dope posters, I might add.
what?
I said very dope posters, I might add.
Yeah, we're recording this on Zoom, so Nick can kind of see them behind me.
It's a
But
dope setup.
Thank you, thank you. But yeah, like imagine if like I had moved out last year. Like if
Exactly.
an entire situation could have changed.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, I can only imagine how many people are living in that. Like, how many people go to Cal Poly even that are living in that exact scenario? They're like, "Hey, I saved up, or like I found some roommates, and I was living with my folks in 2018, but now I was able to move out in 2019, right?" And they're all excited. They're like, "Cool, moving off my life, got my own crib, everything's all good in the hood." And then you
Mhm.
don't even qualify for this. And Lord knows, college students were always struggling when it comes to finances. So people need that money, and the fact that they're not qualifying for it for these arbitrary reasons is ridiculous to me. I don't understand why the government will put in place these parameters to screw people out of this money, and not just us, by the way. Like, I can only imagine how many people are in the situation where they were making more money. So briefly, to qualify for the stimulus check, another caveat is that you had to have made under a certain amount. I believe you had to have, as an individual, make under $75,000.
Okay.
um
Well, then I definitely would have qualified.
right? Like $75,000, you make under that in 2018, then you qualified as an individual, and then couples, if they filed together, they had to have made $149,000 or less to qualify for it. So imagine if in 2018 you had a good year and you had a good paying job, or you had a bonus, whatever the case is, and you made above $75,000 as an individual, or you and your partner together made 100, and 60, just something barely above it. So you made $76,000 as an individual, or $151,000 as a couple, with you and your partner. And that was a good year for you. But then let's say 2019 was a really bad year. Now you're in a bad situation, because you
Yeah.
got laid off. Like so many people in this country right now, you got laid off from your job and you need that money. But guess what? Back in 2018, because you were doing slightly better than the benchmark that they set, now you don't get that money that you're in critical need of. Like, that's ridiculous to me.
Everyone should be getting it.
Everybody should be getting it. And yeah, so that's the current situation. I'm sure I actually know for sure there are tons of like other Broncos that are just straight up aren't getting the stimulus check because they're in the same situation as you, Andy. Like, your story is not unique. There's so many people that are just in this age range of under 24, and their parents still claim them, and they're not getting any money.
Yeah, and my mom told me yesterday, and my mom is not good at breaking bad news. Like, I always used to make fun of her. I was like, "It's a good thing you're not a nurse because you wouldn't be like it really wouldn't work out well for you telling like patients things they didn't want to hear."
Oh
Because
God.
she, yeah, I was just like sitting on the couch, and she's like, "Well, you're not getting the stimulus check," and I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Just straight to the point.
I'm like, "Wait, what?"
She's like, by the way, you're dying.
Yeah,
Oh man. Well, yeah, there's just so many people that are in this situation, and there's so many people that are just struggling right now. I mean, we're all struggling. It's ridiculous. And the
yeah,
fact that people aren't getting these checks is, to me, it's criminal, to be honest with you.
yeah,
It's criminal. Like, it's not anyone's fault. It's not any individual's fault that like they got laid off, you know, and now you're telling me they don't get this money, that's again not enough, but at least it's something. And guess what? Rent still due. Like, rent
yeah.
still came on April 1st, and rent's still coming in May,
I
and
mean,
people still got bills to pay.
if I can be hyperbolic for a second, I would give up the stimulus check just to sit at a bar again or go to a restaurant again.
I would pay $1,200 just to be able to get a drink somewhere,
Just to have a seat at a restaurant and be around people
be
again.
around people and not have to worry about dying.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous to me. This stimulus check is not enough,
Uh-huh.
and so many of the people that are, hopefully listening to this are going to be fellow Broncos, or going to be people that are in college, or at least college age, and we're getting screwed out of it. I was lucky enough that I filed as an independent, um, and my parents didn't claim me, but I'm in the minority. There's so many people that just straight up aren't getting this money, and there's no fault of their own, and these arbitrary standards that the government set to not qualify for it is ridiculous to me. And that's all I can really say on it, without just going off and
And
having the CIA shoot me.
I totally agree. But yeah, we do have more topics to cover too.
Yes, we do. So moving on, let's talk about the school's response to this coronavirus situation. And mind you, just little disclaimer, These are purely me and Andy's personal opinions. This does not necessarily reflect those of the com department, the Poly Post, or any of the editors.
Mhm.
So this is purely our own individual opinions, and we're not going to be deep diving too much into the school's like actual policies.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be a general like feel of like how we feel like the school has handled things so far. So you can rest easy, admin. We're not gonna be too critical on you guys. This is just kind of our feeling on the situation, and then after that, we'll get into what we think is gonna happen moving forward. So Andy, with all that being said, what has been kind of your general feel for how the school has handled things so far?
I was shocked that they offered a rebate for the parking passes.
Right,
I could
right.
not believe it. I was like, "Oh my god."
This
Like,
school giving me money?
the school giving me money back? Oh my god,
Absurd.
they practically have quarter slots on the urinals, you know what I mean?
It's only
Like
a matter of time.
like they will nickel and dime you every step of the way for every little thing, you know what I mean? So the
Oh,
fact that they
everything.
offered money back is insane.
I almost didn't believe him. I was just like, there's some strings attached to this. Like I'm gonna take this check, and then Coley's like, "Thank you for signing the contract. I will take your firstborn when they are born."
Yeah, exactly. I was very surprised. I how do you feel about the more academic response, like the professors' responses? Like, how have your professors been so far? If you don't mind
Yes.
talking about that.
So for me, because yeah, I can always come back to like the overall how I feel like the schools handle things, but let's talk about like the professors because I think that's what people are most
Yeah,
going to be familiar with. So the response, at least from my professors, have been it's been pretty good. They've been understandable. They've been working with us. They've also asked that we understand where they're coming from. I can only imagine how difficult it is, like midway through the semester, having to switch everything online, just completely screwing all their like plans and roadmaps out. So I think it's just been everyone's just trying to express patience, and so far for me at least, it's been pretty okay. The switch overs, the Zoom meetings are what they are. They can be kind of fun.
yeah.
It's hard to pay attention, to be honest. Uh, Procrastination is a hell of a thing nowadays. But yeah,
Well,
it's been all right.
with the Zoom meetings, I just kind of I always because I imagine it from the professor's perspective, like they want to see like people on the screen, like eyes on them, like they're paying attention. But in a lot of my Zoom classes, everyone has their video turned off, and
Including me.
I'm like, I do the same thing, but at the same time, I'm like, come on, man, that's not fair. Like,
I mean, look, you're a trooper, Andy. That is not my fight. You can go ahead and be the face of this of everybody. You be the face of the people, Andy.
well,
Okay.
no, no, no. Take advantage of Zoom and the opportunities of Zoom to not actually have to pay attention like we would in class. But I'm just saying, like, I'm more mad at myself. I don't know why I still leave my video on.
For
Like, I
being
guess I do it for the professors, but I better get like a ton of goodwill and extra credit for them because I'm like one in every one of my Zoom classes. I'm one of like maybe three that leaves the video on so that they can see I'm paying attention.
And you know what? You're a good man for that. I'm sure
I
the
do my best.
professors appreciate it. They should be giving you a little bit extra gravy, on your grade at
Yeah.
the end. So hopefully that's what it turns out to. Me keeping that camera off, baby. I look like a mess.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I don't look good either, but
Nah, dude, you still got the flannels, you still got the hat, and then with the decorum in the background, like the what you got going on, like it looks like a YouTube video, so it works, man. You got the dope posters around you. Me, I just look like a crackhead, bro. Like my hair is all kinds of crazy. I haven't been to the barber in a while, so like I just look like a wildebeest. So I'm keeping that camera off.
nah, dude, you look like a king. You look like a king. How do
Thank
you
you,
feel about
thank
the
you, brother.
beard? People
I,
can't.
dude,
People,
I dig it. I
really?
I don't, obviously the folks listening can't see it, but like I dig it, man. I think it looks good on you. Like I said, Cal Poly's own Andrew Garfield over here, folks.
It's scraggly as hell, but I was texting my friend about it the other day, and I said, like, dude, because we were, talking on a Zoom meeting. I said, I've got my pop culture tee, I've got my flannel over it with my, loosely fitting cap and my scraggly beard and my taxi driver poster behind me. I'm like, my dream of becoming an indie film director is like so close.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, dude. Like you are just mad indie director vibes.
Yeah, and
At the very least, indie critic vibes.
not to mention I have a half finished screenplay on my laptop. So like I'm right there.
Dude, you might as well live in LA.
Yeah.
You might as
Well,
well live in LA.
I can't because I didn't get my stimulus check and there's no way in hell I can afford to live there.
I mean, dude, people in LA that got the check can't even afford it.
I know.
Oh man, you know another thing too? You're a podcaster. You are
That's true. I have a
you are
podcast.
the you are the definitive LA millennial right now.
Oh my god, I've become one of them.
There you go, living the dream.
I know. But yeah, the school's academic response overall, I'll say this: I have to reserve my judgment for my professor's response till I see my final grades,
Yes.
because like I can understand them not giving everyone A's or whatever, but like you gotta pass at least everyone. Like, come on, it's the
Yeah.
coronavirus.
Yeah, like I think, like I said, expressing and practicing patience is very important in these times. And I think our professors and us, at least in my classes, have been doing a pretty good job of that. There's a lot of leniency, like people, they're giving each other a lot of slack, which is what we need in these times. As far as the actual policies the school has, enacted, first and foremost, obviously, was shutting down and switching to virtual classes. And then the other major one, at least for me, again, these are not all of them. We're not going down a super analytical uh, route for evaluating the school. But the other policy that they put in place that I think is topical and relevant is, I believe it was last week, they issued the email saying that we now have the option to do pass fail for our courses.
Yeah.
So you can choose to have a letter grade. You can choose to do pass fail, and then there was some combination. I can't remember of the two, right?
Yeah, there's something like if you get a C or above, it works, but if below, it's fail or something like
That's
that.
right. They had a
But,
threshold for it was like a combination, just like you said. So yeah, that's the other policy. So what do you think about that?
I think it's a really good idea because there's a lot of people like I'm fortunate enough that I'm not taking any math or science classes. Like most of my classes are philosophy and writing classes.
Yeah,
So those are, a lot more adaptable for online because most of the work I was doing on my own at home anyway because it's all writing. But if I had to try and take a math class or something during all this, that's not fair.
yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a great option. So first and foremost, credit where credit is due. I think it's the right move for the school to issue that out to allow people to do that. I think if you're struggling in classes because of the situation, like I'm sure a lot of people are, then yeah, why waste time? And also, it should be noted it doesn't affect your GPA. So if you do pass fail and you're worried about your GPA, don't be. It does not affect it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I think that's great. I think that's a great addition to the policy. So with that being said, I think this is a great option. If you're struggling in your classes right now, you should take advantage of it. Just get your credits, pass, and that's it. You don't have to worry about getting a certain letter grade. Just worry about passing. And then if you're good right now, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. On one hand, I kind of wish I was taking my math and science GEs right now because then I could just kind of fake my way through them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wish I wasn't just doing straight like core classes right now. I mean, I'm glad I am, so I can get out of here. But like,
Yeah.
I kind of wish I was taking like classes that I didn't really care about, like my GEs, like you were saying. That way, I could just shoot for, C's get degrees, baby. Just shoot
Yeah.
the bare minimum, just pass.
I mean, when I eventually take my math and science class, it will be the same attitude.
Oh
Just
yeah.
I'll just be trying to get a C. I don't care. I don't care how I do in statistics. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. I mean, we're calm guys, so it doesn't matter to us at least.
Yeah. But yeah, overall I think the academic response has been as good as we could hope for.
Yeah, I'm not expecting them to, come out and be like, everybody gets a, your degree, everybody passes. That'd be
Yeah.
nice, but obviously they're not going to do that. So I think the way the school's handled it so far has been pretty good. I think that they shut us down pretty quickly,
Uh-huh.
at least relative to other CSUs and the rest of the country. So they shut us down pretty quickly. There haven't been too many reported cases. There was one confirmed case that we reported on in the Poly Post, but
Mhm.
there haven't been too many confirmed cases at Cal Poly, which is good. At least as far as we know, it's a good response. and switching to online has been a little hectic, but I think overall, at least in our experience, it seems like it's gone pretty well. I can't speak for everybody. I know that some of my friends, it hasn't been easy, especially those that are doing engineering and things
Yeah.
like that. But for most of us, it seems like it's been a decent transition over, and people are just trying to adjust to this kind of new way of life.
Oh yeah, we're comm students, so we can only speak for the comm student experience.
Yeah, exactly. And with that being said, what do you think the future is going to look like? We're going to do a little speculation here.
Um, well, for Cal Poly, I kind of hope that I mean, it would be nice if we could go back to school in the fall. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I do miss school. And
Yeah,
also, I can't wait to record this podcast in person and cover the election.
that's what I miss.
It's gonna be so much fun. Look forward to that, Broncos.
Oh yeah, when we come back in the fall, we're in the just height of in the full swing of the election, the general election. It's going to be insane.
Yeah,
But yeah, I agree with you 1,000%, man. I kind of want to really come back to campus and
yeah.
actually get the college experience. I didn't sign up for online university, and I would
I'm,
like to be able to go back.
I mean, because I have that we have that joke where we were, before we were recording, where I said like I'm gonna wring every little bit of goodwill out of this school that I possibly can,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
gonna every petition I was considering, I'm going to go for now because all you have to do is put coronavirus and they have to approve it, almost they're kind of obligated to approve it. But if this goes on to where it's online classes in the fall and God forbid in the spring, because people are saying mass gatherings might not be back until like fall of 2021,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
so
That article you sent me, just super black build. That sent me in a spiral. I was depressed last night, man. I was like, oh my God, we're not getting out of here till 2021.
yeah, I mean, the fact that I have to miss like Star Wars Celebration and Monster Palooza and WonderCon, and the fact that Robert Pattinson's Batman movie got shut down before it was
Yes.
finished filming is too much, man. It's too much. But
Same.
if somehow school goes to online and then we have to take it online in the fall and in the spring, even like that's a full year of online classes that we didn't sign up for. And I'm like, you know what, at that point the school really should just excuse like the GEs that I still have left, at least, you know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
if we're being straight up here, GEs are a complete joke. Like
Oh yeah.
I get they're there to make you a more well-rounded person, but at the same time, like if I have to take like a full year of online classes, there is no way that you can tell me that I have to take like physical geography to get my degree. No way. Like
No, I feel it, man.
you and I both started on the quarter system,
Mhm.
and we were, you're a fourth year, right? I forget.
Yes.
You're a
Yes.
fourth year. So we both halfway through our college experience got moved to this semester system.
Yeah.
We thought that was going to be kind of a weird transition. Now imagine the corona. We went to school during the semester conversion and the coronavirus. There was no reason that CPP and, you know, all the people that are in charge of the academics should not give us some kind of leeway. Like, I don't think I'm asking too much to please just excuse my lab requirement. Like, that's all I'm asking is like, please, I'm not going to become a biologist. I'm not even going to write movies that are about science. So please, why do I have to sit in a 3-hour biology lab when I went through the freaking coronavirus? I'm begging you, Calpo. This is no longer a podcast. This is like begging. Like, please, I don't want to take stats. I don't want to take bio with a lab. Just excuse it. I went to school during the coronavirus. Help
this
me out here.
this turns like a verbal GoFundMe.
I mean, I didn't even get the stimulus check.
I'm
Help me out here,
come
please.
on, please help a brother out.
I'm
No,
begging you.
I completely agree, man. Like at the very least, they should just be hooking us up.
Yeah,
You
they
gotta
were.
give us some kind of leeway moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, if it makes them feel any worse for me, I had some serious opportunities lined up on Tinder too that are all ruined now that we can't go out anymore.
The real travesty.
You know what I mean? I'm like, damn it.
I didn't even think about that. What you mentioned earlier. I'm like, yeah, we lived through Live through, I'm being dramatic, but like we've gone through um the quarter to semester conversion and now the semester to online conversion.
Yeah,
Like I swear to God, if anything comes up in the fall and we'd have to switch formats again, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm like, just give me my damn degree. I'm
yeah,
over this.
yeah. We, I mean, as morbid as this sounds, we've lived through the semester conversion, the coronavirus, and a potential Trump reelection. Help
Oh
us
my
out
God,
here.
it's just a lot. It's apocalyptic.
Yeah, I mean, you
And
thought 2016 was bad. This
oh,
is
dude,
insane.
I'm convinced that every day, the simulation degrades more and more, and I'm just forever convinced that like, yeah, we got off in the worst timeline. 2016, something happened. I don't know. Like we opened up the book in Evil Dead or something like that because we're just in like the worst possible timeline. Nothing makes sense.
Well, I mean, I'm not. I would not be surprised if like next month we find like Godzilla at the bottom of the ocean or
Yeah,
something. You know what
might
I
as well. Might as well. Like
You get
the
what I'm saying?
reality is just on one. Reality is rolling right now.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if like the Cloverfield monster actually existed and came out of the ocean at this
Nope.
point.
Wouldn't be surprised one bit. If anything, I'd look up at it and be like, hey, 6 feet.
Yes, exactly. So the least Cal Poly can do, like semester conversion, coronavirus, Trump reelection, Godzilla. Like,
Just
just,
something, man.
just don't make me sit through a freaking bio lab. I don't want to do it. I really don't. I've been here for 4 years and I've been putting it off because I was hoping that I could get out of it somehow. You know what I mean?
Well, you'll try your best when it comes fall and see if we can, petition for anything.
Yeah.
And as far as my predictions, so I'm gonna try to give a realistic expectations, and this might be a little cynical on my part, but this is just how I feel and how I think things are going to progress forward. And I don't mean to be a doomer to anybody listening. These are just the facts as I understand them and what I've heard and read so far, just keeping up with the news.
Mhm.
So, first and foremost, in terms of Cal Poly, we know that we're going to be shut down for the summer. I
Yes.
believe that information has been known for a little while now. We're shut down for the summer, so it's going to be purely online classes. As far as the fall, I genuinely do not know how we're going to proceed. And every day it's looking less and less likely that we're actually going to return to in class session in the fall. And that's makes me very depressed, but that's kind of the way the chips are falling right now. It's not looking good. And that's really not on any fault of the school. And it's none so at all, actually. It's entirely dependent on how the situation at large, pans out. And as far as my predictions in regards to that, that is where I'm even more cynical because people aren't following the social distancing like nearly as enough. And, those that are, God bless you, but the ones that aren't, it's only exacerbating the problem. Like for instance, I heard from my buddy who lives in LA that there are way too many people. He's going to the grocery store and there's way too many people out and about and on the road for a quarantine, for the stay-at-home order.
Yeah.
And that's no good. That's no good, folks. Very bad, not good. And it's only going to get worse, especially because even if we're on top of it, other people in other parts of the country are definitely not either. I mean, like we see all the nonsense going on in like Florida, for instance, and it's only going to get worse. And my fear is what's going to happen is we're going to open up at some point. Trump wanted to do it in Easter. Thank God he didn't because it would have been bad. But at some point, there's more and more pressure on the government to open things up from a certain segment of people and from certain politicians that want to open up the governments. Sorry, open up the countries. That way they can get the economy up and running. And that's no good because that's only going to have people come out and the people are going to be going back to relative normalcy. Even if we put in measures in place to be like, oh, social distancing and no super large gatherings, people are just going to be salivating to get out there and have that freedom again.
Yeah.
That is going to be so much harder to get them to go back when inevitably once we do that, once the virus plateaus, not dies out, but plateaus in the summer, it's
Mhm.
going to spike again, just like the Spanish flu did back in the day. It's going to spike in the winter. So you have all these people that are out and about and mingling and potentially spreading things. And then we're going to see a huge spike in cases in the winter. And how are you going to tell people to go back home once they've gotten a taste of being, out in free and in the open again, there's no way they're going to go back social distancing, especially because they're going to say, well, I mean, we, got to go back out again, so it's not that serious actually. And that's my worry.
Yeah, but the thing, and not to sound like, again, a doom and gloom person, but I watch a lot of zombie movies. So like I is if anybody has ever seen, and this is just a slight digression, but if anybody has ever seen the 1978 Dawn of the Dead, the George Romero classic masterpiece, if you
Classic.
haven't, you should. But if anybody who's seen it knows what I'm talking about, because there's a whole scene in that movie where there's a scientist on television saying, if your relative becomes a zombie, you have to kill them. And then there are a bunch of people who are worried about burials and worried about, you know,
Hmm.
giving them a proper send off and everything. And that is exactly what's happening in the world right now, where, in terms of, as a society, I don't know how much longer we can take these rules.
Yeah, people are
Like
getting antsy.
I've been home for the last month. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I've only gone out for takeout food, and even then it's through a drive-through.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who I don't know how much. I don't know, because they keep extending these stay-at-home orders by like a week or 2 weeks. Because I was even talking to my brother about this. He said like, oh well, if they told us like, guess what, it's going to be another 2 months, and they just dropped that on us, I think people would go crazy.
I
And
mean,
there would be.
yeah, I completely agree. I was literally about to say the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
my feeling on the situation is, so real quick, just straight up, just, even more positive and cheery news. We're probably not going to be getting out of this for a good while now. I mean, we referenced it earlier, but that article says we're not looking at like getting out and going back to somewhat normal life until at least next year. They're predicting that they're not going to have a cure or some kind of therapy treatment in place for the coronavirus until at least next winter. Next winter. It's the entire year. And I think that local governments like governors and the federal government, I think they all know that. And just like your brother was saying, they can't just drop that on people, though. They can't
Yeah.
just say, hey, we're going to be in lockdown for the next 18 months, which is the realistic time frame we're probably looking at. But they can't say that because people would lose their damn mind. People would go crazy. There'd be riots. People would be like, nope, no, I'm not staying inside that long, screw that. So they're just going to keep inching and inching, being like, just like we've seen here in California. Governor Newsom has extended it. It was April, and now it's pushing back to May, and now it's going to push back probably again past May, and they're just going to keep staggering it out. And sure, people will probably catch on to that, but for most people, they just, I don't know, it's something psychological where they don't want to think too much about it. They're fine, and probably internally they know that it's going to be a long time. But if, as long as it's just like, hey, next month we'll be out, and then next month come, they're like, hey, for safety reasons we're going to extend another month. Like, people are fine kicking the can down the road, but you can't
Yeah.
just drop a bomb on them.
Well, once you hear it vocalized and you hear it put into reality of, guess what, the next 18 months of the world is not going to get back to normal. um I don't think people would be able to handle that.
No, I
you
don't
know
think they would.
exactly. I mean, we're all dealing with it in our own way, but you gotta remember, it is like that, what's that hashtag, like alone together or whatever, or
Yeah.
like everyone's in it together. Like, you got to utilize, so social media has never been more important. Like, you
Yeah,
have to utilize social media and the technology that we have to, you know stay in touch with people.
I completely agree. I think you nailed on the head, and you know what? That's a good transition to end the episode into a more positive note. So before we get out of here, just following your lead, some words of actual optimism and encouragement. Just like Andy said, we are alone but together. We should take advantage of the technology that we have to be able to communicate and see one another. Zoom, like parties with your friends, it's actually fun. I had one with my friends last week. It was wonderful seeing them, actually getting to hear and interact with other people. And even though it's only through the screen, it was still nice just having that kind of interaction. You can do the same thing with your families. You can do the same thing with your significant others, or your friends, your classmates, whatever the case is. We can take advantage of social media. We don't have to just accept being isolated and cut off from one another. We can still connect, even if it's digitally.
And think of how many great memes are going to come out of this.
Oh, just so many. The stonks are going to be going up, folks.
Yes.
All
Well,
right, and with that, Broncos, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much again for listening to another episode of the Polypod. Thank you for bearing with us
mhm.
and this new format. We hope that it's okay to you guys and that people still enjoy it. Next week, like I said, me and Nate are gonna try to get back onto a more normal episode schedule with guests and covering the issues in the Polypost. But we'll put a rain check on that. We'll see how that plays out. But as always, you can find the latest and greatest issue of the Poly Post on the polypost.com. You can
Mhm.
follow us on our Instagram at the Poly Post. You can also go, if you're listening to this, then you're hearing it on our YouTube channel, which you can hopefully like, subscribe, and share with other Broncos if you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, anything else you want to add, Andy?
Stay safe, everybody. And The Lighthouse is now on Amazon Prime. Watch it. It's
Oh yes,
fantastic.
so good, so
Yes. That's a totally random thing I'm throwing out there, but watch The Lighthouse on Amazon
good.
Prime, the one with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. Fantastic film.
There you go. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. You go ahead and please stay safe, everybody. Good luck in all your classes, especially as we approach finals. And we will catch you next week, hopefully, maybe.
See you, Broncos.
Peace.